This episode of GuildCast is brought to you by Netflix. For a free 30-day trial, head on over to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV.
Gamebreaker TV.
Richie and Liz rocking now in the back room. What's up, everybody? Welcome to GuildCast Episode 57 for January 9th, 2013. You're watching Gamebreaker. I'm Gary again. Told you they were rocking out. They're always rocking out when the music starts. This week on the show, shockingly, ArenaNet aren't giving us an expansion for free. Wah, wah. They can let us see invisible people, though. And despite that, the player base are still full of jerks. All that and more, plus, of course, your viewer questions coming up on today's show. But first, of course, from Massively.com, it's Elizabeth Claire. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Rocking out. Rocking out. It just makes you want to do that, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. Just every time.
It's inspiring music.
I start this, and then all of a sudden their cameras are just like...
It's true.
It happened.
Every time.
Richie P, what's happening, brother?
How are you?
Good,
So we're going to
good.
see invisible people.
We're going to see invisible people. Invisible people. The invisible people. The invisible people.
Yeah.
That'd be a good song. Can we make that? Make a
I think we
Gilbert
can.
Marilyn Manson remix? Sure, I think we just
can do
did.
it.
I think it did.
All right, we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But first up this week, we have been talking a lot about the expansion size amount of content coming in the next 2 months for Guild Wars 2. Well, we thought it sounded kind of crazy and a little bit ridiculous. We thought it was kind of nutty, and it turns out, well, it's probably not going to be an expansion's worth of content. I don't know. You guys remember any of the conversations we had about, ArenaNet?
I remember.
ArenaNet's promise about, expansions.
I
worth of
remember us
content.
predicting that they weren't going to put in a new landmass until it was an actual expansion. So I'm going to say we called that one. I'm going to say that's all.
That's true.
I'm going to say we got that.
I mean, I think we were all blown away when we read the quote. This is the problem. They got to watch all their quotes. See, a few years ago, when things like when Gamebreaker didn't exist and shows like this didn't exist where they're scrutinizing every word, they were just like, whatever, just say something and it just blows by and forget it. And now it's like you say, we use the word expansion and we just talk about it for 6 weeks in a row. Every week we bring it up and we keep telling everybody to expect an expansion's worth of content for free. So,
And then the internet happened.
exactly. And then Gamebreaker was here to scream it from the rooftops.
Yeah, and then MMOs before the internet.
I think we were all a little bit doubtful of this. This isn't all bad, but PR maybe needs to just think about their words a little bit more. So Colin Johansson jumped out there to tell us about kind of clear this up. He said, to set expectations accordingly, the January release will be a relatively small release that sets the table for the stories and features we plan to roll out with the February-March releases and beyond. Also, there will be no new race, profession, or new region with these larger February-March releases. Colin Brohanson, I think not.
Yeah. No, what's interesting is we've been discussing this expansion worth of content for free in January, February, but I don't think any of us ever thought it was going to be races, professions, land masses, anything like that. So it's funny he's qualifying that. So I'm guessing they got a lot of feedback, a lot of forum posts about, oh, he said expansion, that must be new races, stuff like that. But I never expected any of that. So it's interesting that they've had to kind of take a little bit of a step back because. He's clarifying the post in December, basically said, oh, wait till you see, January and February's patches are bigger than all the other patches before. So it looks like they've had to readjust that plan a little bit. But they still are going to be putting out a lot of stuff between now and March. And so I'm still super excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Liz.
I think a lot of this has to do with people not understanding like how to read comments. First of all, you have to take in mind that this is the game director. He's obviously going to be excited. And, like, he's thinking about, oh man, we put this much energy into it. It's going to be amazing. We are putting as much effort as we would have put into an expansion, which still might be the case. But you have people who just pick out the word expansion. They're like, I expect an expansion here, not the equivalent work of an expansion. So I'm not saying that like he was lying to us and we should feel betrayed. I'm just saying that yeah, it makes sense that they're not going to put out a new continent or a new Elder Dragon or a new race or whatever in something that isn't an expansion, even if it's as much work as one.
You get excited about stuff. You're talking about stuff. You're excited about it. You want to tell people. I say crazy crap all the time on here. Like we're who knows what we're doing? I don't know. We're building a monument next week. I don't know.
Monument to Richie.
Somebody should make a site of all the things that I've said were going to happen and that don't happen because it's a long list, but you just do it. So it doesn't exactly sound like an expansion's worth of. I think that it's actually funny because we've been discussing the term expansion a lot on another show that happens on Mondays. And it's a funny word, right? It's like because it's such a word that's like MMO players are so used to the term expansion and what that means and what is entailed in an expansion and how much be sort of the expectation level and things like that. So it's a word you gotta use with caution because, like you said, as soon as you kind of say the word expansion, even if it's a little bit taken out of context, gamers are going to be like, "He said we had expansions worth of content coming. It's gonna be crazy." But there's still a lot of good stuff coming. I mean, it seemed crazy that they were going to give away an expansion's worth of content within the first 6 months, basically for free. Anyway, it just didn't seem right.
Yeah, it's still impressive. I mean, it's all about the delivery, right, and how they do it. They cause almost some of their own communication issues here because when you still think about it, they're still going to be doing an update in January, right? It's not that there's no longer an update, and still, I think if before launch you said to me, hey, they're going to come out with an update in October, November, December, January, and February, I would have been like, no, that's not going to happen. There's no way that that's going to happen. So we're already kind of used to this every month thing. And we should take a step back and go, you know what? That's still pretty friggin' incredible. And
it is.
No one else does that. So,
the only reason we considered it is because they kind of said it.
Right.
They kind of put the words out there, so it's not like I know there's up for interpretation, but at the same point, that's the only reason we ran with it, and that's where everybody ran with it.
And we really don't know at this point what all it entails. We know that there are world versus world stuff coming in, that they're going to be changing and adding and improving a lot of that. We know that there's probably going to be PvP stuff, like we're hoping that that's coming up with some of the stuff they talked about earlier. There's certainly going to be PvE stuff, but that's kind of what we know the least about. So they could be going in and adding a substantive amount of new dynamic events or new story content. So it could still be an incredibly oppressive amount, even if it's not an expansion.
So Colin continued by saying, one of our major goals with these releases is making our existing world as strong as possible, ensuring there are reasons to go to all the locations in the world we've already built, and strengthening the core game we've provided. Which definitely sounds slightly different than an expansion, but I gotta say, I mean, this sounds more beneficial than a full-fledged expansion right now anyway. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in there that needs a little bit of tending to, and it sounds like, strengthening the core and fixing some of the core problems that they might have right now is really a great way to set it up for a solid, game later on.
Yeah. When he says stuff like, reasons to go to all the locations in the world, I hear, nobody goes to Karka Island anymore except for that one Ori node. I wonder why. It sounds like, they know that there are problems with existing content. They know that, say, dungeons need some revamping or re-going over. So hopefully we're going to see a lot of improvements there to really shore up the game that we have, which will, I think, in the long run, create a lot better goodwill towards the company than putting out new stuff that also maybe isn't super strong.
Yeah. No, I think this is just what we need. We need we've been doing these crazy, big events, right? And let's just have a patch where we take a step back and improve some of the systems that are already in place. Maybe add a couple features that we're still looking for and hoping for, and just fill in some gaps, And I think if we have a patch like that in January, and by the way, he did say earlier today, I think that in about a week we're going to have a lot more information about what's going to happen for the next 6 months. So that's going to be exciting. So we should know more in about a week. Next week's GuildCast, we should have a lot more information. But it's still going to be very exciting stuff. And I do think that, you know, if they didn't go ahead and say that it was expansion worth of content, you know, a month ago, I think I'd be really, you know, and I'm still in a really good place. But I think that I'd be very, very excited about just having a January patch where we go over the game with a fine-tooth comb and improve everything that we have there. I think it's a great idea.
For sure.
And Colin finished up here by kind of giving a little bit more explanation around the term expansion. So he said, in saying this will be an expansion's worth of stuff in these releases, we're talking about the number of new features that will be rolled out across PvE, WDubs, and PvP in early 2013, which usually you don't find in an expansion for a traditional MMO. So, I mean, this actually makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
Casting. Sorry,
I think it's
a little something in my throat there.
Do you think it's going to be included? What's the over/under on guesting?
It's got to be. It has to be the first thing that comes out.
You think it's the first thing that comes out?
It's got to be.
You're saying the January patch? Really? You're calling it now? You're going to say January patch?
If not, then super early February. Like, if January is setting the ground for stuff, then I can see it maybe not coming to February, but it's got to be soon.
That they've still been talking about on the forums. They've been committal about guesting, but they are still working on it. It's still something. It kind of sounds like they're ready to start to announce something. So I see where you're coming from there. I don't know if I'm expecting it for January. But this qualification of the expansion's worth of content being more feature related, that makes a lot of sense, because think about it. If they deliver on guesting, if they deliver on a dungeon finder, if they deliver on like leaderboards and the custom arenas for PvP and all these like world versus world secrets that they have going on, you know, if they deliver on all those features between now and March, that's huge. That's really, really a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's
current players are
extremely
happy if just those 3 to 4 things are in within January, February time. So basically, what we know then is nobody should expect, no continents, no races, no professions, nothing too crazy. So wipe that all clean, which I think is completely legit. What this doesn't count out, though, again, it doesn't necessarily count out dungeons or the new PvP areas or maps or anything like that. What do you think the possibility of seeing some of that in the first January, February timeline?
I think we could see another fractal. I think we could see that. I don't think we're going to see a whole new 5-man dungeon. I think, like Elizabeth said earlier, that we're more likely to see the dungeon revamp. That they are going through all of the old explorable paths and story paths as well.
I have no idea. I think they just said that they were just going over. Yeah.
But in any case, they're going to be going through some of the encounters, or a large percentage of the encounters of the existing dungeons, and making them. I guess they're going to revamp them so that they're more up to like how the fractals, some of the fractals encounters are. They're a little bit more involved. I'm not sure exactly, but I can see them doing the revamp more than just adding a whole new dungeon.
So no Mists of Kodan Aria coming next month. Wah wah.
No, I don't think so.
You forgot to throw in Legion in there.
Yes. Anything else you're expecting, though, besides, do you expect another world event?
Yeah, it'd be nice to see some more dynamic. So before launch, they talked about how they're going to be cycling kind of dynamic events, and some would come in and some would go out, and bits of the world would be changed irreparably. So it'd be nice if we saw something that was on the scale of, some more large-scale dynamic events, or some new events to kind of beef up content, and maybe the lower level characters or lower level areas as people are, getting their first 80 and going back and starting again. So it'd be really nice if we saw some of that added. But I guess we'll find out.
It isn't really the focus right now is really like those end game pieces of like the mechanics and things like that we're talking about. Isn't that really what you need to kind of bolster up right now is all the stuff that what do you do after 80, right? It's like, there's still tons of content to do, but I think all the PvP side, WDubs, maps, like you said, Finder, Dungeon Finder, all that kind of stuff seems like that's the core community. I mean, that's where most people are probably at. They need to, especially probably the most vocal people at this point screaming for more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you put a dungeon finder in so they can get to some of that content easier, because there's just different personalities out there. That, like Elizabeth or I, we don't have a group. We'll find a group if we really want to do a dungeon. There's some people that are intimidated by that. They don't know how to start it, or they're intimidated because they don't have the experience of doing a dungeon group, so they don't want to go in with a bunch of people that they kind of, form the group together. They don't want to have to call out and start a group, if they're the ones that never did it. So a dungeon finding queue that kind of helps those people along will definitely help that kind of thing. And I think you're right. Those kind of features, the more end game focused features, the custom arenas and different things like that are what the community really wants right now to shore up what most of the people are actually working on at the moment.
Somebody in chat room wants baby quaggin racing. Just want to throw that out. Knew that'd get you smile.
I would be okay with that. I would be okay with that.
You're racing the babies?
You set them down and you put little fish or whatever quag you need at the other end and you make them go for it. I think they eat fish. I think they eat crab. I've cleaned fish traps for them before, so it must be fish that they eat. Anyway, yes, I'm totally cool with that.
All right, next up, can ArenaNet do what we thought is impossible? It turns out, well, possibly they may be able to do it. So gameplay programmer Habib Lowe made a very, very interesting and very technical post this week. Somebody give me a 10-second explanation of culling.
Culling is assets and characters and stuff rendering on your screen. And if there's a large amount of those on the screen, they don't actually appear to everybody in real time, so that you're walking around or running around world versus world, and then you think an area is totally clear of enemies, and suddenly they appear on your screen and you're almost dead.
That was like 20 seconds.
That was. You went way over. You way over.
Sorry. All right.
You lost $50,000. All right. We talked about this about an episode tour back. But what ArenaNet have now said in this post changes pretty much everything. Check this out. So he said, engine programmers are working their magic even now, and we're testing the networking changes that will be required. I believe that our goal of removing culling from dubs is achievable, and I'm looking forward to the day that I can announce to you all that we've pulled it off. I mean, this is amazingly great news for dub fans. I mean, I think a lot of people on the armchair quarterback side of things kind of thought that this might be a limitation of the engine at this point, and just kind of chalked it up to we're always going to sort of have this culling issue to some extent. But it really, I mean, it sounds like they're on the path to completely eliminating this issue, doesn't it?
It sounds really promising, and hopefully, even if they can't pull it off entirely, they're able to make it better. Because right now, they're not very good at figuring out what actually is crucial for you to see. So, the person you're attacking suddenly goes completely invisible, and it's just a problem. So, I'm totally hopeful that they aren't speaking out of enthusiasm with this, and that they're actually going to pull it off. But even if they just improve it substantially, that'll be a huge win.
Yeah, you read my mind there. I'm going down I'm going down a month ago thinking of reading that Colin Johansson book and getting all excited and going, wait a minute, is this that same thing again?
Hang on.
They sound really positive here. They sound like this is all but done,
There's a lot of confidence in this post for sure.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
How much of a difference do you think this is going to make in dubs? I mean, aside from just looking and feeling a lot better, I mean, do you think is it going to help players make a lot more strategic and informed decisions on an individual and also a group base of where to fight, when to fight, and that sort of thing?
I've been in some pretty well strategized groups in World versus World with led by Ed Park, and it's interesting. There is a lot that goes into it, but the fact that there is culling actually plays into the strategy, right?
Right, because you're they won't see us.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to exploit the culling, but there's certainly people that do that, especially with like portal bombs and stuff like that. But more so, like, do we want to go out there? Well, let's wait a minute or two and wait and see if there's more than just that one guy that we're seeing. Those kind of things actually play into the strategy. So it'll be great to actually trust what you see a bit more and have less of those oh my god moments like, oh, there's the culling issue. So yeah, it'll be huge.
It's also important to note that this will help them if they're ever, and I hope they are planning at some point again to do one-off events, because one of the biggest problems with the Karka update was that people were getting, one-shotted by Karka they couldn't see.
Yep.
So if they fix culling, that carries over to also being something that comes into PvE. So if they do the big events and they have a lot of people in one area and a lot of mobs in one area, it's not going to be such a problem. You're not going to be an ore going, where the heck is this risen that I'm supposed to be killing, with all my buddies, because I don't see it. So it's going to be something that really improves a lot of the game. It's going to help world versus world tactically, but it's also going to improve your user experience for everybody, especially if they go back to doing their one-time events.
That's a great point.
How we talk about the confidence that they're sort of putting out in the world here with this post is quite big. Do you expect this to be in January, February as well?
Hopefully.
You think?
Yeah, I think
it sounds like it might be a little bit farther back than that. It sounds like they're still really in testing on something like this.
It sounds like maybe a February, March thing.
Well, how neat would it be to wrap that into the February patch with all the world versus world changes that they're gonna shock us with? That would be the best. They're coming out. We know that they're coming out with new features for world versus world. We know that they're or we're speculating still that there's new maps of some sort for world versus world. It'd be so great to just and we fixed the culling issue.
It'd make it really nice.
Yeah. The other thing to note here is that they're also saying that they're intending this to work for minimum spec players as well, right?
Yeah, it's just crazy.
So basically, if you can run Guild Wars 2, no culling, full stop, that's it. It's just gonna be gone. No more invisible people, no more invisible walls, none of that junk. Just
hopefully.
Hopefully,
they're wizards. Hopefully. They're wizards over there.
They do have some server wizards for real.
All right, we're going to talk about how much the player base in MMOs you guys are just a bunch of jerks. Going to talk about that, but really quick, I want to tell you about a great deal we got going on with Audible. Go over to audible.com/Gamebreaker. Got a free 30-day trial, and I want to give you a free audiobook. Hook you up with an absolutely free audiobook. Just use the URL audible.com/Gamebreaker. Go over, sign up. You're going to get to use the service absolutely free for 30 days and download one free audiobook just by using that URL. So go over, check it out, get the app on your smartphone, on your iPhone, your Android, whatever kind of device you have. Works on your iPad as well. That's usually where I use it. And get your free audiobook today. Go. Audible.com/Gamebreaker. All right, so if you didn't know, MMO players are jerks. Warning. All of them. Yeah. They really are like snowflakes, aren't they? Somebody tell me what's the rundown here. Richie, did you cover this week?
Yeah, last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
The great Snowflake massacre.
Snowflake incident.
They obviously GW2 players really like snowflakes.
They do. Yeah, they found using some of the Winter's Day crafting materials, the snowflakes, that there was an extremely lucrative jewel crafting recipe that they can basically make and salvage and get a lot of the materials back, and kind of not an endless loop, but create a very lucrative loop in materials that was exploited for lots of gold and lots of materials.
Elizabeth, I'm let down again by you. You've let us all down. You've let your viewers down, and most importantly, you've let yourself down.
I have. Actually, what let myself down was they only banned like the 200 worst people. So if I'd just done it a couple times, I'd be that many actors close. No. So the way it worked was that, you have this snowflake that is essentially the rare crafting material. And after you crafted this ring, you could salvage it. You'd get a couple ectos, and if you're using the right kit, you've got like an 8 or 9 in 10 chance of keeping the snowflake. And all you have to do is resupply some of the metal. So you're essentially getting ectos for basically nothing. You're trading a very common metal for ectos, and you're reusing the same snowflake over and over again. And some people were saying, hey, this wasn't an exploit because you could do something similar with recipe for silk. You can make the silk insignia or something shoulders. You can make shoulders that you get maybe half or 3/4 of the materials back plus some ecto. But it's not to the same extent because you're losing the rare crafting materials, which are the expensive part of the process. So people were really, I think, stretching when they were saying, hey, we didn't know it was an exploit.
stretching might be, you know, giving it being nice about it. I mean, seriously, if you're doing this, you know what you're doing. I'm sorry. Like, you're literally pulling money out of your ass doing this, and it's just...
Well, I think you know that it's very lucrative. That's for sure, right? You know, like, oh, wow, this is really, really good. But, you know, I guess it depends on how many times you're doing it before you know that you're exploiting it or if there's something wrong. It's a very gray, it's a very fine line, and I could see both sides of the argument.
It's gray? I mean, if you do this like 3, 4, 5 times, by then you're sort of going like,
this feels too good. See,
this
that's
feels kind of weird. The thing is, when you get it, you do it like, you know, 100 times or something. It's like, you're dozens of times.
Yes. I think that's what they're talking about. The people they banned did it literally hundreds, if not thousands of times. They banned less than 200 people, and they were the people who sat down and said, I'm going to make myself a stack and a half of ectos by doing this 100 or 1,000 times. Literally thousands of times doing this. And that's why I think it's no longer a gray thing. Like, if you think it's good enough that you want to sit there and do that for a couple hours because that's all you want to do, you might think, hey, like, this seems like it's not really the way it's supposed to work because literally nothing else in the game works like this.
Right.
And that's when you should start to think, maybe this is not the right thing that I'm doing.
And ArenaNet thought the same thing and pulled out the ban hammer, the permanent ban hammer, not even a slap on the knuckles of like 30 days or something. Permanent, gone, see ya, here's the door. Here's your pink slip. Don't let it hit you on the ass on the way out.
The last time they had a big exploit, they said that it was kind of the community's final warning. They were like, hey, you know, we'll let you write a letter of apology and promise to delete stuff this time, but next time for reals. And it's interesting because now that they do have that rollback technology, especially since they're saying we'll do it once and never again, it'd be really interesting if they'd just been like, all right, we're rolling back your account, you get a TEP ban, and you never get an account rollback. You know, the next time you screw up, you're getting banned. So it's an interesting choice that they went for the permanent ban right away thing, but it's something they kind of said they were going to do.
Set the precedent. Just set it. Just be like, screw you, ban, gone, see ya. Don't need your money. Don't send us $15 a month anyway because there's no sub fee, so screw you. See, that's why they can kind of do that a little bit more than the average MMO because of that, can't they? They don't really have to. I mean, of course, you got to factor in gem store stuff, but I don't know. I like them being harsher on the community a little bit because you're all a bunch of assholes. That's really what it comes down to. Really are. Gamers in general, MMO players really are. That's really what it is. We're all a bunch of like 10-year-old brats.
Well, let me just play, not that I agree with this, all right, but let me play devil's advocate to that a little bit. You know, you can make the argument, all right, well, ArenaNet, you know, it slipped by and it got put into the game, and now you're doing that permanent ban. So how do you kind of react to that? Because that's kind of some of what the other side of the story, you know, will say. Yeah, like it is you know, it's on them to a certain extent to make sure that things like this don't slip by. So how do you react to that?
It is to a certain extent, but the fact that somebody else screwed up does not relieve you of the obligation of not also screwing up.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of personal responsibility, so for me it's really about like, yeah, okay, so their QA people kind of slipped on this one. That doesn't make it okay to then go and make stacks and stacks and stacks of Ecto. I could have my legendary.
This is like the hot coffee spill in my lap, and I'm going to sue you because it was too hot. Yeah, exactly. Support liaison Gail Gray jumped on to kind of give a little bit of insight to this. It says that anytime you take one thing and you can make 2, and then 4, and then 16, you got to know that's wrong. I won't quibble on the odds, but overall, that form of doubling was not outside the realm of possibility. And to perform that action hundreds and hundreds of times, that's called exploitation. And that's against the user agreement, the rules of conduct, and all that is holy. I don't disagree at all with this.
All that is holy.
All that is holy.
The all that holy part cracked me up.
I mean, I think I would say that, you know, all those players who got banned will claim ignorance and say that they didn't know what they were doing was wrong, but I don't believe 99.9% of them.
I've seen so many people, and honestly, like, if I'm exploiting, I would rather own up and get banned than say I was too dumb to figure out that something was an exploit. Like, I honestly couldn't apply logic in this situation and understand that it was actually literally too good to be true. Yeah. It's such a weird defense. I'm too stupid to be responsible for my actions.
And you have to
You ever
be
watch
careful
the
with
People's Court? You ever watch the People's Court? I mean, seriously, you see the things that people come up with when you put them in a bad situation and they're uncomfortable. They're just like, they become like 5-year-old, like, you know, just completely bubbles of dribbling idiots, and just words just fall out of their mouth. And they just, well, yeah, and then you just deny to the point of like, it's ridiculous, you know? It's like the old story, like, who's joking around? Like, you know, like a guy getting caught, like in there was the comedian when he gets caught in the bed with another woman or something, and his wife walks in, he's like, I don't see another woman.
Just deny it.
Like, and he's in bed with another woman. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see another woman. That's like how ridiculous this is.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have to, you know, there's so many sob stories on Reddit or on the forums where they put, you know, they put out these really long posts with all, you know, and that's very well written and all this stuff, and you kind of get sucked into it, and then like, and then you'll see like a post from ArenaNet or something like that, like, actually, this is kind of what happened. You know, it's like you don't have the information unless you're ArenaNet or you're the person that did it, and ArenaNet's got the stats, right? And it's got to be clear to them.
And on top of that, I feel like the type of player who figured this out and did this is so dialed into the game, and they're probably watching this show, they're reading the forums, like they're like the hardcore user. Like the casual person just like playing Guild Wars has no idea this even exists in the game. So it's like they're even more dialed in to know that this is going on. The only thing I can think of is that possibly people remembered back when ArenaNet was sort of like odd, weird approach, the whole karma weapon vendor situation early on, and that was sort of like a, remember what did they say? They were like, please give it back.
Yeah, just delete it off your account and literally write us an apology letter saying you won't do it again.
And maybe people thought like they were going to do that again and kind of take the softy approach, but surprise, surprise.
Oh.
Yeah, and to your point, like I consider myself a fairly hardcore player in terms of the amount of time spent, you know, like kind of on this show and stuff. I had no idea it was going on, you know, until it was already over. So it really there was a very, you know, sectioned you know, people that really were dialed into the economy and crafting and doing that whole kind of salvaging into gold thing regularly that picked up on it.
I have to ask, like, what are some of the other pleads that or cases that people are trying to make?
That's really about it. Just like I honestly thought it was like the Silk Shoulders thing. I didn't think it was really an exploit. I didn't understand that.
I honestly thought this was the greatest mechanic in the world because I'm just printing endless amounts of money. I thought you just wanted to give us money, like nonstop, till it's just endless.
How about the guy who's trying to claim that it can't possibly be only 200 people banned because 7 of them were in his own guild?
The Massively guy? And what's adorable is that the guild's name is Unrepentant, so a bunch of people from a guild named Unrepentant got banned for an exploit. That's been my favorite thing since I read it.
Like he couldn't puzzle out that maybe the 7 of those guys were all doing it kind of together and talking about it, and maybe that's why those 7 got banned.
Oh no, that doesn't happen. No.
Martin Kirstein, the community head, like gets on the thread and he's like, "Hey, you know, it was less than 200 people, and these were the people who did this." And the guy's like, "Mr. Kirstein, I can personally guarantee you that there were more than 200 people banned because I know 7 of them personally." It was just a really weird.
I can personally guarantee. Back to you guys are assholes. That's it.
It's just such a weird situation.
Yeah.
That dude is probably trying to plead entrapment in the MMO court of law. Is that possible?
They put this in front of us, and really, we couldn't help ourselves.
We couldn't help ourselves. I just couldn't deal with it. It was just your fault. It's your fault, ArenaNet. It's your fault.
So this will go down as the Snowflake Massacre of 2012 Winter's Day.
That it is. Hey, let's do some viewer questions really quick. If you guys are watching this live, especially, you've got only a couple hours left. If you're watching this on the rerun, you may have a couple hours left. Head on over to Gamebreaker.tv/giveaway. We are giving away a signed collector's edition of the Mists and Pandaria. Yes, it's World of Warcraft. But we have signed by all of the developers, all the World of Warcraft developers on MOP, giving away a copy tomorrow night on Legendary. Make sure to get on over. You got a few hours left to enter. Get on over. All right, so first up, this one from Jan Mail Stroob. Says, champions and veterans in the world are still kind of useless. Aside from protecting some crafting materials, a chest or nothing, there is not much to do with them aside from being fluff and a minor challenge. Do you think there will be upgrades to them to make them appealing? What do you think, Liz?
This is actually something my guild and I were talking about, because currently there's, this champion Karka who's sitting on a rich orichalcum node, and most people don't bother to fight him. If they're interacting with him at all, they'll just pull him away a little bit and then run in. But most people will just like pop up a couple pets or something, run in, put on an invisibility if they have it, mine the orichalcum and run back out. And they're talking about it because there's really no benefit to killing him. Like, it doesn't do you any good. It's just going to make life a little easier for the people who come until he respawns like 10 or 15 minutes later. So there's not a benefit to killing most of them because they don't have a guaranteed excellent drop. You know, you take 20 minutes or whatever with 5 of your buddies, you take down this guy who effectively you have to kill twice because of his armor coating. So you kill him, and I got 2 blues.
Yeah.
That's not, you know, my time literally would have been better spent to have popped up some pets, run in, got the orichalcum, which I could have sold for much more than the blues. So right now, I think they need to put something in to make you want to fight veterans, aside from the ones who are just like in your way or part of an event. Because if they're part of an event, yeah, you want the karma, you want the gold, you want whatever. If it's, you know, at one of the temples, you really want the chest at the end with a chance at a precursor. But since so few veterans or champions have guaranteed good drops, they're not really worth your time if you're looking at making the most of your time and not just taking on a challenge.
Yeah, no, totally agree. They need to redo the redo loot on the champions and veterans, because exactly what Alex said, a lot of them take a lot of time and you don't get rewarded. And I don't even think you need necessarily a guaranteed like rare or exotic.
Right, no,
just
absolutely
a
not.
higher chance for something, or throw some unique skins on some of these things. You know, some weird armor or just anything to make it appealing, so that when you see one of these, you know, you're like, oh, you know, in World of Warcraft, any mob that had that silver dragon kind of around, you know, the not the elite, but the silver elite or whatever you want to call it, you know that they had, you know, better than average treasure. You kind of want to evoke that kind of response from these things, and it'll be more exciting to actually take them out.
Yeah, and I think just a higher chance would be probably a better bet, because the moment you give, you know, the ancient Karka his own unique drop, you know that he's going to be farmed, which is something they're kind of trying to steer away from in the open world, is like people just camping this one boss. So it's a really delicate balance, but I think a better chance for good loot would be really helpful.
Next up, this one in from Joey Maroney. Joey asks, do you prefer the cutscene style of Guild Wars 1 or Guild Wars 2? Liz?
Both.
What a cop-out.
Guild Wars 1 is a lot better about bringing you into the story. Guild Wars 2 is a lot more beautiful. I mean, probably Guild Wars 1. But only if it had the character models of Guild Wars 2 and the backgrounds and all that.
Well, yeah, I would assume.
Yeah, if it was on the Guild Wars 2 engine and like using Guild Wars 2 graphics, Guild Wars 1 wins automatically.
Yes, exactly. Guild Wars 1 was, you know, it's a more traditional kind of cutscene. But you know, you do get to see multiple characters on the screen besides just 2, and you get to see where they are, and you know, there's animations to it and stuff like that. And it's probably a lot more expensive to make. So I don't have necessarily a big problem with how they do it in Guild Wars 2, and we've talked about that before, but Guild Wars 1 was better, for sure.
Last up this week from Mike Daniels. Mike asks, do you think we'll see the Canthan New Year holiday event soon, Rich?
I'm going to go with no on that one, because it's soon, and we're not in Cantha, so I'm gonna go with no. I think people are excited about that because that was big in Guild Wars 1, but I don't think we're gonna see that in Guild Wars 2 until we can actually go to Cantha.
It'd be nice if you'd had like NPCs in the Canthan district talking about it, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. I just don't think we're gonna see it.
Derpcat says no. Derpcat says no.
Derpcat says
that's adorable.
Really is. Just to start just putting cats up all the time. Hey, everybody, go over our brand new YouTube page. It's youtube.com/Gamebreaker Nation. Make sure you sign up and subscribe over there. Big thing we're going to be pushing is the YouTube page a lot more. So Gamebreaker Nation is the new YouTube page. Sub up. We're going to be doing all kinds of giveaways and special content over there in the 2013. So make sure to do that as well. Richie Procopio, follow him on the Twitter at BogOtter. No, BogOtter is the YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/BogOtter. And follow Richie on the Twitter at Richie Procopio. And of course, come over to Gamebreaker.tv to read all of his Guild Wars 2 action over there.
Yeah.
I said that without taking a breath. Elixabeth Player. Follow her on Twitter at Elixabeth Player with an X. Go over to Massively.com and make sure to read all of her great, amazing work over there on Massively. massively, massively. For those of you wondering, Scott Hawks will be back. He's actually fine. He had some internet troubles today for the show, and it was dropping every 5 seconds, so just ISP issues. Do not worry. He will be back. We love the Scott. Scotchy Scotch down into my belly. He will be back. That's about it. You guys are assholes, because that's really what the internet's all about.
Parting words. Y'all are jerks.